My biggest thing that I always try and push myself to every day is to kind of like be the first person that says hi and to not be afraid of doing that, because I think I lived a lot of my time like being afraid to be the first one to say hi or being afraid to be the first one to talk in a room. And it's okay if you get back in that mind where it's like up and down, but I think that when you have that mindset where it's okay to be the first one to say hi, that's where you can really grow as a person and show like this is who I am. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like sometimes people are just stuck in their own world and you just got to get out of it and just like be able to say hi to someone, and that could create awesome memories and new relationships. And that's the best. I think that keeps you going is all the people around you.
Okay, welcome back to Journey to June. I'm your host, Wendy Posillico, and we are here instigating your soul. And like I said last episode, we have a theme this month of highlighting our Soulstigator graduates. Some are high school, some are college, and I have a huge Soulstigator, my niece, Grace Posillico. I can't wait to dig into not only her journey, but like where she's going and her vision. So welcome, Grace.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Grace, tell me what is going on in your world at this moment? What did I miss last 2 weekends ago? Just give me a synopsis of where you are right now, besides you're in Huntington. I know that.
So this past May, just graduated from college. Finished that, which was really awesome.
What college?
From
What
Sacred Heart
college?
University in Fairfield, Connecticut. Just graduated with that, and then now I am still working on a project connected with the school, which I'm running some rehearsals for, and been managing that from home until we're back in person for rehearsals for a show we're doing. And
So it's a summer show, or are you getting paid for this? What's going on, Grace?
I'm not getting paid for it, but it is our university brings a new works play or musical to the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland. So I got to interview to be the stage manager, got it. And then we casted the show, and then we have a group of us that are traveling there for a month. And the school is all supporting for it and paying for it. So it's kind of just bringing new works theater with all of these students. And even though I graduated, technically a bunch of other seniors get to go too, so it's kind of like we're still with the school. But we've been working on it since I think I've joined in March. So I've been working on it since March.
What's the play?
It's someone that graduated a year older than me wrote this musical for their senior capstone, and I got a random text last year, "Hey, do you want to stage manage this show? I know you're not if you're not busy." So I jumped on that show, and I did have to re-interview for it, so it didn't really matter, but I got to work on his musical that he wrote himself, and then he graduated, and then this year they wanted to bring it back, so they called him up and said, "Kid, you want to come back? Let's recast it and bring a new version of the show to the festival." And now that's what we're doing, and I got to interview and get to work with a bunch of the same
So
people
cool.
again, which
It's
is cool.
so funny because when you tell, oh yeah, I'm doing a couple. This is to me how amazing. I want to say soulstigators are amazing, driven humans are that have a soul of humility yet drive. Because this woman has told me about this. She gave me the list of what she's got going on all summer, and I'm finally like really processing. So I'm sorry if I didn't listen to it, but this is incredible of what you're sharing. Can I ask you this? You're the director, did you
It's
say?
the job description's production stage manager, but I'm stage managing. That's kind of the
Okay. So, but when you're the stage manager, do you have any, are you bring in the people, the auditions? Like, what's your job from the start?
Um,
So I understand, because the listeners probably have no idea either. What does a stage
I know.
manager do?
My best thing is that I break this job into three different, like, there's three different elements, like time periods that you require different jobs. Like, once that one's over, you're jumping to the next one. But all three of them kind of go into each other. But the first one's just like the beginning stages in the rehearsal process, and you're in charge of mostly just scheduling people and getting all their conflicts and making sure people show up on time and showing up to rehearsal and being prepared. And I send out daily calls with the schedule for the next day, or I'll send out reports every night of what happened at rehearsal. So if anyone, so that if the director wasn't there or any of the designers that need to know what happened in rehearsal, they get all of a whole report every day from rehearsals. So it's really just the first part of this job is just keeping track of everything and really making sure you're bringing that like welcoming environment into rehearsals. I go, even if rehearsal starts at 11, I'll be there maybe 10:15, 10:30, set up before everyone. So, and then I'm the last one to leave because I clean up. And most of the time with working on shows, I get an assistant that'll help me. Like on bigger shows, I'll get three assistants, which is really awesome. So I'll have a bunch of people running around doing a bunch of things. But it's kind of a big, you're tracking everything and really being that pinpoint for questions and putting the production together. And that jumps into like the next stage of it is like the tech week stage of it, where you're really problem solving and putting your book together, because during the actual show you're the one that's calling this whole thing. So kind of coordinating everything and making sure like tech does everything's thrown at these actors. So then my big thing is I always like try to check in with them as much as I can, especially if it's a smaller cast. You can have that fun bond with them and you can make sure like what's going on, what do you guys need from me, what can I make you feel more comfortable, like what do we need to run and work on, um if there's extra rehearsals, do we need it. So it's kind of like a big tech week is very crazy time, but you're in charge, you're like the one really leading it with the director. So I don't really creatively make any decisions, but if things aren't working for me, I'll definitely go to a lighting designer and be like, "Hi, this cue isn't where it needs to be, or can I move it here, or or it's not making sense to me." So it's kind of like sometimes I'll like with those cues and things, I get to have a little more of a creative kind of thing. Like,
So you're like problem
yeah,
solver.
like just a
You're like a problem
giant
solver
problem solver sometimes. And then the last part of it is just
and
running the
create.
show day to day. And it's like, especially if we did one show, we did 11 shows in 2 weeks. And again, it was a cast of 7 people, and you have a whole crew, and it's 600 lighting cues, 300 sound and projection cues. So it's kind of all in 90 minutes. So running the show day to day is where you have the people in the booth and you're in charge, you're calling the whole show. So um it's hectic, but there's different stages of the job, but then they all come together. But it is a giant, you are like the problem solver. And sometimes it's always like I'm kind of signing up to just be like the person in the back that just gets it done but no one knows about it kind of thing. So that's what I'm signing up
Yes, and
for.
this is you're signing up for that. I love this. Number one, I love hearing the process, like the three steps or the three stages, because Josie always says like, she's in these plays and she's like, it's tech week, and I'm like, great, it's like a lot of time. Like I don't really know exactly what goes into it, so it's so cool. Obviously, her plays are smaller, but like to hear the job that you have, that the stage manager has to do all these things. Um, but what would you say is two things? What would you say is the hardest part of that role, and what would you say is your gifts and your strengths in it?
um I think the hardest part, I think that so far with me doing it, because it's been just a college level, because I haven't had well, I've had a couple experiences, but the most of my experience comes from college level, is it's actually kind of working with your friends can be really challenging, especially when you are like your job is to really not like be in control, but really have the show under your belt. And sometimes if friends don't get part, it's like kind of a little like childish, but again, like it's college and people sometimes feel if they don't get the part they want, or if they're not like if they're really busy, or if there's something going on. It's like you're the person that has to deal with all of it, especially if a show. I've had casts where it's like 40 plus people that you have to manage and all their conflicts. And then I think that's the hardest part is people. I think sometimes if you haven't done this job, you don't understand what it's like getting a bunch of texts every day saying random stuff. And or I've had a cast member that can't come to rehearsal because someone passed away and I'm the only person that knows, and it's like those are hard times where it's you have to like I want to it's so hard for me to say this word compartmentalize like yeah, you have
Compartment.
to like really wear different hats, and I think the hardest part is deciding what time for which hat and like using my best judgment where it's something that I need to care about and figure out, or something that you need to let go and be like this person. It's kind of just like problem. It's again that it's dealing with a bunch of different things, and sometimes friends don't understand, especially if you're telling something they don't want to hear. We have to stay for rehearsal for 30 minutes longer, or all of this stuff. And I think I after doing it the last because I really jumped into this job the last 2.5 3 years, I jumped into it, and it's kind of like I'm still figuring out my style and how I think sometimes like some shows it works really well and we click really well together and people are really excited. And sometimes it's a little harder to get the group together if they're not, or because all of us are running around doing 20 million things in school. So I think that's the hardest part. But
It
yeah.
sounds like when I hear you saying it, I think of sports, of course, because I'm the athlete. But just you in order to play on a team for a game, you have to gel. Like it has to, you have to all be in the right mindset. You have to all have the same mission. You have to be sacrificed. Like some people are sitting on the bench, some people aren't. Some people have to stay after extra. Some people have like a mistake. So like you are kind of like the coach or the person that's bringing all that together and managing complaints or situations or personal shit start stuff. But what do you think in the last 2 3 years? I did ask the other thing about what makes your strength. I think it's such a valid thing that you're saying. And it's good for us to understand what it takes. It's kind of, I was just actually doing a 3 year review of being an entrepreneur, and no one's sitting caring about me. Like no one's saying like, how are you, Wendy? Like I'm working with clients, I'm doing a podcast, I'm doing retreat, and then I have my team and I'm like holding it all together. And that's what I hear you
Yeah.
saying. And like, it's like, oh, Grace actually has feelings. I'm sure it's hard because you're such a kind, sensitive human that you care about everybody, but you also have to be like also direct,
Yeah.
like direct in how you have to operate.
Yeah, my biggest thing
Yeah.
is sometimes it's hard for people to see like the bigger perspective of the show and not just their kind of like job in it. I think like especially I've got the chance to be in a couple of shows in college, and while I'm an actor and focusing on that stuff, I'll like secretly be like really observing the stage manager, and it's like I never like it's really I hold everything back. I make sure not to because I would see something go wrong and I'm like, okay, it's their job to figure it out. If it really needs to get to a problem, I'll say something to someone else and be like, hey, just letting you know this is happening. But I really kind of observe other stage managers, and there's shows where I've sat there, I'm like, I hate the way I feel as an actor because the stage manager is making me feel like this, and or this director or this team is like, this is the way they ran it, and this is how I felt because it was not a fun experience. And then I would kind of just mental note it and not like go around and be like that sucked, but it's kind of like taking.
Mental note of how you would do it
Yeah, and
different.
I would just like make sure to be like, okay, I don't want my actors to feel like this in the future if I'm, or if I don't want my designers to feel like this when I'm designing, and like, because I've props design and done shows too where I'm working with stage managers and I'm like, oh, I don't really like the way that they did that. That's not for me. I don't like how that felt, so I'm gonna try and not do it like that when my next time comes up to stage manage.
God, so many things are popping in my head because I love what you're saying about being the actor and coming from a different like perspective, and how you're not judging it but like taking note of it. And it makes me think Josie's going like to Bach, a new school. Super excited that she's doing this. But part of the for sixth grade is they have quarterly shows and they all take a role. Like one time they're doing tech, like one show someone's doing tech, someone's doing costume sewing, like building, then they're doing the stage building, and then some are in the actually acting. But to me, to it's so, even like just that thing popped on my head. Wouldn't it be cool for one of my team members to like take the lead and me to sit back for the week? I know, really like to see a different perspective. Wouldn't it be fun, like to do something
Yeah.
different? Um, I think it's fun because that is like that's probably why you're good at what you're doing, is because you are taking different roles. I even think of that like as a restaurant manager. I used to like, you're holding all the things like, well, you have to like be the like the server, the bartender, or you're the chef, and like how all that works together. Same thing. What makes you like? What makes you who how? What's the strength in you doing this job? What's your strength about it?
I think a big part, I feel like sometimes the past year, I've talked to a lot of stage managers, and just when I've gone through interviews or just reaching out to have more information about this job, um, I think a big thing that I've heard at least is that a lot of stage managers kind of are very like again, it's kind of like a type A kind of job. I never thought of myself as a type A person because I feel like my brain sometimes jumps around and like it's not super type A, but I feel like I really try to. I guess empathy is the best word into this job. I feel like talking to other stage managers, it's a big thing now that it's taking over um, kind of the role because, again, like the times are changing and things aren't how they should. Like there used to be um, it's kind of like people just do the job and you're gonna have to deal with it and not take care of actors, and that they're gonna have to show up, and the stage manager is kind of like a scary person that like boom boom boom, like we're getting this done. And I think that as talking to other adults that have been a part of this world, they're seeing a new like shift in like really kind of being that more empathetic, balancing both worlds. And I feel like that I've
Mm.
spent, and again, it's kind of like working on a team when there is the right group of people and you have the right team. It works so well, and it's just like, and that's why looking back in college, there's shows where I look back, I'm like, this was great, and this is my favorite because I worked with these people, and the show turned out great. And that's why we sold out the whole show because it was just a great group of people. And I think it all starts with how people walk into a room and just making sure you check in with everyone. And I think a big thing of my, because everyone says your practice as a stage manager, and like everyone has different styles of doing it. I think my biggest thing is being able to do the work and also like be able to show that and show up and have, I think also like being like accountable and reliable for people is a big thing for me. And again, bringing that empathetic side that not a lot of stage managers used to have, at least maybe like 10, 15 years ago.
Mm.
And now it's kind of
I love that.
also just bringing
Who
that point of view into it. I
yeah.
think it's something that I feel like I've really worked on my practice.
And you know, it's funny again, like I just did the 3-year review, and I think that's part of me as a leader, being, you know, I only have a one little teammate. But we had at a time I had 3 people helping working with me, and part of it is like also knowing them as a human, not just like they're doing this job. Like there's all different aspects of us as human beings, relationships, home life that affect how we show
Yeah.
up. And when you have that empathy, it's like they feel heard. Or and I really, that was one point I made, is like I'm learning how important it is, not only like the people I hire as a human, how are they as a human, not just that are they good actors or are they good at doing the back end of my work, my company, but also making sure I make help them be felt heard and taking a moment. And I think that's what is magical about you also. So that's what you're saying. Who did you think, who's your biggest influencer in this department or this role that you played? Like who has influenced you?
Hmm. I think I don't. It's so weird because I think sometimes part of my brain I have like two answers. I think there when I was a freshman there was this senior that did this job. Um and she's not doing it now. Like this is not what she wanted to do. It was kind of just um she just really enjoys theater and she was the president of the program and she was like the stage manager of two of the like the main stage show, and I remember just watching her and really wanting to work with her and thought it was and take things from her. But also there's some of the sophomores this year, I don't know why the younger people have really like watching them jump into this job. I was a stage manager for our main stage show, and I had three sophomores that were my assistants. And then watching them, two of them got to do their own show as we were still working on. It's so our program's so crazy. There's so much stuff going on, but we found out that we were all working together for this longer period of time. But in the middle, one of the sophomores jumped and did their own thing while working with us. And then about our right when my show was like coming close to the end, the other sophomores jumping on the stage manager their own show, and I think watching them take stuff from me and do it in their own way. And it's so awesome to see that and be able to take from them and just be watching them because one of my assistants did a show and he did the report a different way and I was like, oh, that was really awesome. And then I would take it because he jumped it off from me. So I think it's like working with those people that can take from you and then you take from them, and kind of also like watching these new people is really awesome. And even though they're younger than me, they still um it's awesome watching them jump into this new world. It was kind of funny. My three assistants, one of them was really experienced and he knew always what he was doing. Sometimes I'm like, he knows more than me because he's the best. And I think that, but then he'd always be like, are you kidding me? I'm learning from you every day. And then there's a third person that was really intermediate that's assistant before, but never worked with me. And then I had the third assistant, never done this job before in his life, never touched this realm of theater. And it was awesome watching all three of them like shine and take control, and the new person just jumped in and did all this wanted to jump onto everything and was always there. So I guess those three people, it's just like, and then the senior that really, I guess these people at school are really, because I feel like there's no adult
So
in my
that's so
life that does
funny.
this. I don't know.
So that's so funny. I love that. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah,
I was expecting more. Oh, they had this teacher, but like what I hear is, again, what makes you magical is you're open to take in from your assistants and learn from them as much as you're learning, which is a leader. It's beautiful.
yeah.
That's so
I
cool.
don't know if there's
I love
anyone
that.
that is doing this job that I'm super connected to right now. So I'm excited to meet more people.
Cool. All right. So tell me this. Let's go back. I love where you're at. I mean, we just spent so much time learning about the moment. So I can't wait to share. I'll have to share the link when you go to Edinburgh, right? Um, Well, congratulations on that. So I want to go back because part of this theme that we're doing this month is learning about like you graduating and being the person you are. And the reason I have you on because I have seen your growth. I've seen you in struggles and like really in a place of like not feeling good about yourself. But I've also, and then I've seen you expand, expand, expand. So when you think, and I'm only going into like, I just did a mother daughter workshop with young kids, Josie's age, and they're just like getting in that like, um, that catty, like middle school, like trying to figure out who they are. And some girls can be not so nice. And it was just beautiful that we took a moment and had the mother daughters just like be in a moment of like really thinking of what they want and who they are. We did a candle workshop. But I'm just thinking when you were back in middle school, like even so high school, talk to me about like knowing where you're just explaining and where you are right now. What would you tell yourself to that younger self in wherever, high school, middle school? And what was what would you tell yourself and why would you tell yourself that because of the experience that you had?
I feel like I don't know how to word this right, but I feel like just don't be afraid to say what you love. And like I think that like you don't need to like prove to anyone that like what's right for you, like not like what's right for you, but what's, well, this is coming from, I remember like even up till like a couple, like I've always like saying that I do theater, and like the arts kind of world is always like I've always so nervous, especially our family, and like I was people.
That's good. That was very humble. You know our
um
family. What does that mean? Like we're all athletes, you mean?
yes, and
Like what do you
like
mean by that?
it's like very
Talk
like
to me then.
athletes, business people, like you should go to a big
Mm,
school that has a name for itself and like get your business degree
mm,
or something. And even like from coming from my high school, like it's so, my high school is so big on like Ivy Leagues and regents and testing and go to good colleges. And like I remember that I was like, that wasn't for me. And I think it was like I felt so embarrassed sometimes to be like, oh, I'm going to Sacred Heart. And then like 2 years later deciding I want to do theater. I'm like, oh, I'm doing theater at Sacred Heart University. I felt like really, even talking about that, like I
like
whisper
you're
about it because I'm just a little nervous to talk about it because it's like I feel like there's already, and I need to that's why I'm like get over it. Some people think it's awesome what I'm doing, so I think yeah.
so interesting. Like so what I hear you saying, and I don't know when this happened, but what I hear you like what I see is when I look at Josie. Now Josie's a different bird, and you used to say this to Josie. Oh, I wish. I remember you saying this one time. I wish I started
Mhm.
earlier in singing and all this stuff. And this is kind of probably what you're saying why you didn't, because you're maybe embarrassed or like it's not accepted or something like that. When did you think, when you look back, because I relate to this because I was the athlete, although I was playing sports, I'm talking, I wanted to be like playing tennis professionally. But then all of a sudden, like, oh, like I went to Friends Academy, like what, like I didn't feel smart. I felt very just like I'm just fitting in, and everybody was going Ivy League school, and like I didn't even know where I was going to go to school because I didn't know if anybody was going to accept me, and I felt, although I looked good because I was a good athlete, like I felt inside very shrunk, very apologetic, and I didn't really like own who I was. And so when you think of yourself in high school or like when was the point where you felt like kind of shutting that down, shutting that joy. That's what we call live your June or your ethos. When did you shut that down
Um,
or like hide it?
like when I realized that, like shut down the negative thoughts or the positive.
Or like when did you like notice that you were like you felt like you didn't fit in, or you felt like and then you started to just like go through the motions, let's say that, because that's very common.
Yeah.
And I feel in general in humans in general, because they don't really find the thing that makes them excited, and they more do what you're saying, go get a job, go to the school that everybody thinks they should go to. So when did you start to like almost be a little small inside and like keep that excitement of what you love quiet?
I feel like maybe it was like right before high school. I was like, I don't.
I remember when you were in Shrek.
Yeah, that was.
Okay, this is a girl. First of all, you obviously see, anybody listening, you can feel the kindness, and her heart is, she's all about people, and she's always going to put others ahead of her, even though now she's a stage manager. But she's always been like that, the kindest soul, and always put herself like kind of let everybody else shine. I remember when you were in Shrek and you were one of the Fionas, and I had never heard her sing. I don't know, what grade was
I think it
that?
was seventh grade.
7th grade. And I was like, who is this human? Like, I get chills right now, like literally chills, going, oh my God, who is this human? And so was that a point where you were embarrassed because you sang, and like, even though theater was good in Cold Spring Harbor?
Yeah, I guess. I think I still didn't feel it. Like, I think I was still. I was. I always say this story to some people because I wasn't supposed to do that show because I had basketball tryouts the same day as the theater auditions, and then the weekend before, I don't know what happened. I was with Katie and Joe Four and our friends, and I think I broke my wrist somehow. And then I was like, oh, I guess I can't do basketball. I'll audition for the musical with a broken wrist. I remember that was a big thing because I remember that the meetings for both were the same day. It was both on a Thursday or Friday. I ran to the basketball meeting, and then I think I remember being like, okay, I'm interested in this. And then I was like, but I have to go. Ran to the theater meeting, and then I couldn't decide. And then I guess over the weekend I broke my wrist, and then that decided for me to do theater. And looking back, I did not want. I probably didn't want to play basketball. Um, but then that's really where it's like, okay, I'm choosing theater over sports, and that's like what's gonna happen. And my wrist is a good cover up to prove to people that instead of deciding, it's a good like, oh, this happened. I can't play basketball. I can sing for, and then the cast came off. But I think that was a big
That's
thing for
interesting.
me.
That is interesting. So you break your wrist, and it's like a kind of a excuse to do the thing that you love without having to like say I don't want to do basketball just because I choose theater.
Yeah, and then
Correct?
that just stuck, and I never went back.
You never went back. So first of all, it's a gift, probably, that wrist. Number one. What again, like, let okay, I know you so well that even though you went down that path of theater and didn't do the sport, how did you feel in high school when you look back and know who you are today? How do you when you think of it, cuz I know it was hard. Like, there was points of like feeling not seen or something like that. Like, what's a feeling? And again, what advice would you give people that either are in theater or different, maybe they want to do something different that's not the norm, how did you feel? And then what advice would you give yourself or others in that same situation of feeling not either not fitting in or feeling lost? What?
Um, I think that the biggest thing for me is that I felt like I don't know why. I guess maybe just our brains feel like this. I feel like sometimes people are like always like not watching me, but like or not like judging, but I just always had this feeling that it was kind of like everyone else's world, and I kind of was just there. And I've like always had that feeling, and sometimes that feeling comes back, but it's kind of like it didn't feel like again like going through the motions, like not taking over your own life. It kind of just felt like I'm looking back. I don't know if a lot of people like nothing ever like no one ever went out of their way to be mean or not like nice to me, but I definitely was. I think I'm the person that needs like a little push. And I had my close, like my small group of friends, but there's a lot of people that would kind of just like brush you off because I wasn't that kind of bigger person that needed like that you needed to be to like in high school for people to like oh say hi to you and stuff like that. I kind of kept to myself a lot, and probably people just were like oh like I don't know like I'm surprised if people know my name sometimes. Like I ran into this group of guys over the summer with some college friends, and they remembered my name, and I was like oh that's crazy because I know but it took them a second to be to look because I remember we were talking, I was like there's no way you guys know my name, but I know all of your names. They're like no you don't. I'm like yep, this is such a weird story. This happened last summer, and then for a second they're like oh yeah you're Grace Paselco, or they got me from Posillico because they knew my siblings that are these people that take over our high school because they kind of have their my three siblings are very they like kind of people they're big personality people.
They're more social. They're more
Yeah, and
social
and
in
that wasn't really for me, I guess, and I don't know why I was like so striving to be something that wasn't me. And I think like I would tell myself it's okay. Like this is like you're not that type of person. You're not the person that'll randomly make a joke in class to get laughs and attention. Like you kind of stick in your own lane, and that's okay. I think also like I felt like there was I was like, oh, I need to be something, and I was looking back. I felt like I didn't. I don't know. It's just like I was waiting for some. I don't know. I feel like I was pushing myself to be this type of person that I wasn't.
Can I ask you a question, a hard question? Were you waiting? Was there a story in your head about the outside world that affected how you behaved or how you saw yourself? Let's say that.
Um,
Did you have a story or was just like you felt unseen? Like how do you explain that feeling of like you were just I think it's common, first of all. I don't think people talk about it. I think the reason you're talking about it is because you have gotten through it, and this is why I'm having you on it. Because I want people to the audience or parents to be like, this. You can look good on the outside, like you can look like you can go along with the flow, but inside you feel awful, like or you feel lost or you feel not seen or whatever that is. So I
yeah,
don't want to put words in your mouth, but like again, what would you tell yourself? Either more patient, like what would you tell yourself in that feeling? What would you have done different, knowing how you are right now? Like when I see you, I see such strength and like clarity, and because I know we talked a lot. Like I did some coaching stuff with you. I remember being and just tears of sadness and coming out of your eyes, and like it made me. I could cry right now because I know that I really know the feeling you had. I do. I know the feeling you felt. So, what would you tell someone that feels that and is not saying it?
yeah,
Because I think it's either the other thing is like you also kept it all in. Like you didn't know what you were thinking,
yeah.
or okay, you were afraid to say it. So, like going back, if you can help someone today in high school or whatever that has that feeling that you're saying, like you're going along with the flow, but inside you feel like so unseen or so empty. Give me something that you would do different.
I know. I feel like I was really. I don't. It's kind of scary to look back. Cause I remember I was so. I remember now looking. I'm like I was really good at faking it. Like I think that I didn't want to like seem like there's anything wrong with me, so I just pretended that everything was okay and pretended that. And I felt like I guess that was the environment of my school is like don't you can't like nothing could be wrong because then that's weird and you can't be like upset or going like no one ever like shared the hard stuff. Like I wasn't really no one I was not around people that I could do that with and even looking
Was when you think of see that's language. Do you really think something was wrong? Like, or it was just you didn't have like you didn't have the strength or the character. Was there something wrong, or you weren't listening to the things you love? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I think that
What would you tell yourself, right? Like if you put yourself in those shoes, right, where you were quiet and like going along with the flow, what would you do different knowing? Like would you just reach out to someone that you feel safe with? Would you talk more? Like what would you have done differently? Or would you be in nature more? Like just something that gives someone who feels what you felt that's listening or a parent that's struggling with a child. What would you tell them to experiment with?
I think just really having that honest conversation where you can say what you're feeling and not have someone answer back with something that's like being just more of a listener and not a judge in conversation or someone that or like a really good listener not just like hearing something big oh well this happened to me and this is how you it's like sitting down actually listening and asking questions back and like helping someone like just having that conversation to help someone get through something more than just like hearing just instead of being I feel like there's different types of listeners and I think the one that is that you really need when someone's not feeling it is like to help them go through it and asking questions instead of kind of taking over and being like because sometimes they're
This is what you should
yeah
do.
like they're and taking over and being oh this da, 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 da. It's kind of just being like really there for someone and talking to I feel like I didn't really talk to anyone like I kept like I remember for years I never told anyone about my parents being divorced because I remember it felt so like wrong and no one ever talked about it and like the kids that had that parents are divorced it was like you knew that like everyone in school knew their parents were divorced and da 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 da, da. And it was like there's it felt like and I never felt like I could tell anyone because some people came into the school with it go happening. So like one of my good friends, her parents were divorced since she was little, and there's nothing she can do about it. Like she's been since like really little, like before she could like probably in maybe it's three or four, but it was always a part of her life. She didn't talk about it that much, but it's like people knew about it, and that's and then I'm sitting there in high school going through it, and I remember I told no one, and no one talked to me about it, and now it's something that a lot of people go through, but not that that makes it better, but I feel like I've like years I've hid it from my friends. Like they would come over, they had no idea what was going on in my life. And I think all of those like secrets and like not getting over this thing just kind of tumbled into more things like not getting fixed. And again, I think you were probably the only person in my life that's why sometimes it'd frustrate me because you would always ask me these questions and push me and I was like no one ever asked me that and I was sometimes I get frustrated because I'm like I don't want to talk about it but then it's like you were the only one that was constantly like checking in on me and then one day it like cracked and I was like okay this is it but then it's kind of like
When did you crack?
I don't I feel
Do you remember?
I feel like we were it was either like in your bed or like I feel like in Norway, I feel like I kind of remember being like I'm still like holding all of this in and I can't like let it out kind of thing. But I felt like because no
Yeah.
one else, not that everyone doesn't care about you, but it's like again, I was really good at faking it, and no one seemed like that. I had to, but it's kind of just like hiding
Yeah,
all
and
this
I also
stuff, and it's now it's I just I think a big part of me is like I didn't know how to. I guess maybe I didn't want to
yeah.
be a problem. I don't. I'm still trying to. Sometimes I figure out why it kept me so long. And it just kept building and building, and not being honest with people, and just other stuff happened on
Yeah,
top of
and like
that.
so I hear that like the building of like pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down. But I think part of it when I would ask you questions, it was so hard. You didn't know how to say it, but it was so heavy, whatever you were
Yeah.
thinking. And I don't think you actually ever gave space for you to have the thoughts or have the conversation to have the courage to even figure out what you were thinking. But I just always knew you felt safe with me, even though you always sometimes we would ask questions and like we get to a point where like something would break open, but then it would be like, I'm gonna pull back. But I think when you see yourself, and I know you've had a long like during COVID was hard, graduation was hard. You know, when you look back, do you go, wow, I got through that?
Oh,
Like, do you have like, do you have like, wow, I'm really strong. Like, I can't believe I came out the other end. What do you think about that?
I think so. I feel like definitely yes. And then now it's kind of like now that I got older and in college, I kind of like I remember going back for sophomore year, I really figured out like my flow and my friends and kind of like who I want to be in college. I was figuring it out sophomore year, and I was really settling in with this like this is cool and this is me and it's fun. And um then I met really good friends where it's like I can say what's happening, and it's so weird at a college like as a 19-20 year old like learning how to communicate like tough things with people. And I think like a lot of people are going through it, but like then there's Josie that's going through hard times, and as a 7-8 year old can communicate what's going on and what's bothering her and how can we fix it and how she's upset. And I was like a 19-20 year old still trying to figure out how to like still trying to say, oh, this is a sucky thing. I can talk about it with my friends and they'll listen. And when I've talked about them, like I one of my really close friends, the first thing she's like, Grace, I don't know how you do it. You're so strong. And it's crazy because sometimes this is a different thought, but I think that like hearing the word strong from other people has helped me because I've had really good friends that have been there for me. And also, it's funny, I'm figuring out what's too much to share, what's not enough, or like what's something that I just need to keep for me because that's okay. And I can keep to myself and what's oversharing. So it's kind of like balancing, like I'm figuring out still how to do that, which is fun. Because then sometimes I'll be like, okay, I overshared. I don't. That's not what I wanted. That's not who I want to be or talk about. But I can figure out when it's the right time to like bring someone in and who I can trust and going through all of that stuff. I feel like people go throughout that all the times, like who you can trust. And when I've sat there and have talked to people about something that's bothered me, and my brain's talking to me while I'm talking to them, like listening to them back to me, I'm like, okay, this is not a good person to talk to because they are not giving you what you need as a friend. Not that they're a bad friend, but it's just some people aren't built for the conversation that will make me feel better. If that, I don't know if that makes
Awesome.
sense, but
Well, yeah, I do. I do. What do you think the three qualities that you look for in a friend?
um, I think, I think just being able to be honest with someone and say your opinion is a big thing. I feel like I felt like in high school I'd always just agree with whoever's in front of me and didn't really have my own opinions. Not that I was hiding them, but I really just couldn't process and like make like figure out what I thought was right. Because I think I just would agree with everything in front of me. Because I wanted to like be that people pleaser kind of thing. But and like just be like, oh, I'm okay. I agree with you. You're great. Like it's like or this is great. Um, but I think having friends that it's okay to disagree with and be honest with is really important because and like figuring out okay we disagree about I think that's big because I feel like I've never had to go through that in high school and then in college I've had friends where it's like I don't really agree with you on this thing but we can get through it and move on and figure out a way through it and I think that makes stronger friends when it's okay to either be wrong or not be just like disagree or something.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing is like being honest with that though and not just being like, oh yeah, sure, like being able to be really honest with someone is really important. I think also I think that not that all the time, but someone that will go out of their way for you is really important because I feel like I'm just thinking of my best friend right now and how we operate. It's kind of like I think it's like it's never going to be like friendships sometimes aren't 50-50. It's like someone's a little over and someone's under. It's like being able to like fill that other cup when they're down or like bring them up and then if they're down being able to do that. I think that's important is like being able to I think that's like one of my best friendships is someone that we know will both go out of our way for each other and
Like you have each other's back.
yeah, and like and if someone's not feeling good, like show up for them and like go out of your way and do something for them and kind of like those are really special friendships rather than just like hanging out and I think that's a big thing is like again like showing up for them when you need to and kind of having that like you're there for them and they're it's like you're worth it as a friend kind of to like go out of your way for them. I think the third thing I don't know, I feel like just having I don't know, I just say maybe just having fun and not like being able to like make time for those fun like moments and memories and just I think sometimes it's hard to get a group of people together, but then just like making the effort to like want to be there and be friends and like making the effort to communicate and that's a big thing. Just kind of making the effort to be there and have and just like want to have fun and if we don't want to have fun but also being there for each other and being like I don't like I'm not feeling it. I think those are like big things but I don't know it's not
I
like
love
three
that.
qualities it's like three like
I love that. No, I think that it's like be there, have fun, create memories, and like honest. And it's okay to be like disagree and still love that friend. Like you don't have to always think the same.
yeah
I love that. When you think of three words that make you as special as you are, or makes you live into, I say Solstigator, but live into your like that, um, that fiery human that's alive and doing the thing they love. Like, who are you when you're doing that? Three words.
mm, hmm one of them's definitely probably that empathy is big it always sticks with me um hmm,
It's so
I
hard to
know.
say good things about yourself, right?
I'm trying to think of
But we're
I'm
going to
trying to
do
think
it. Three words.
or like maybe like empathy just like this is so well that's basic but I think just like being a leader Mm, hmm. Maybe I don't know what's a word for like enjoyment or just like I don't really like something about enjoying like what I do kind of thing.
Like doing the thing you love, like living into like that in joy, because that's when you come alive. Well, I see such a young. She's going. By the way, she got into Columbia, right?
Oh yeah.
And she's going. What are you go? What are you in for Columbia for? What are you
So I'm gonna
studying?
get my MFA, which is a Master's in Fine Arts in Stage Management. So it's a 3 year program. Pretty crazy because most
Amazing.
schools are either like 2 years or 1 year, but 3 years. Um, I'm really deep diving into this job because I didn't realize that this is what I want to do. So this Sacred Heart doesn't have this type of education because all my experience came from working on shows and a couple classes, but I haven't really taken a class for this career path. So now I'm about to spend a few years really focusing on it and building up my resume, and I'm excited.
Well, we are family, but more, I am so proud of all you do. I see it in how you talk about it, like what you're doing, and like to know where you were and where you've come, that you've like dug and found your people, and um, really, I can see it in your eyes and your smile and your presence of when you're in your element. You are just killing it, and it comes easy. It comes natural, and you are Josie's like big sister, and I thank you for being who you are. Okay, now I'm crying. But thank you for being a role model to so many kids your age, because you really are. You stand tall, and you're kind, and you're strong, and you're smart and beautiful. What is the imprint? We talk at Live Your June, leaving your imprint, like right now in your life. What is the imprint you hope to leave on the people you touch?
um, I think that my biggest thing that I try to is like that I always try and push myself to every day is to kind of like be the first person that says hi and to not be afraid of doing that because I think I lived a lot of my time like being afraid to be the first one to say hi or being afraid to be the first one to talk in a room. But I think that and it's okay if you get back in that mind where it's like up and down, but I think that when you have that mindset where it's okay to be the first one to say hi, that's where you can really grow as a person and show like this is who I am. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is to not
Awesome.
like sometimes people are just stuck in their own world and you just got to get out of it and just like be able to say hi to someone and that could create awesome memories and new relationships and
Awesome.
that's the best. I think that keeps you going is all the people around you.
All right, last few questions. Biggest influence, anybody who has had a huge influence on you.
Oh, probably it has to be Graham. I think that
Love it.
it's so funny. She's so good at not letting like she'll talk if something's frustrating, but she doesn't let things bother her. At least she doesn't go around. She doesn't really, and she doesn't. She'll have fun and complain or whatever, but she doesn't do it in a. She never just sits there and like complains. Like she's always like a problem solver and always trying to just be around people. And she surrounded herself with good people, and that's because of her. So I think that's the best thing is that she is a big problem solver and she brings people together and but she does it without like doing anything. It's so weird. People just want to be
She's like
around her.
effortless.
Um,
Yes. Yes, I
I think
love it.
she's my biggest person because I remember again, I think it's hard for like our family. We are not really like a talky feely kind of group of people. But I think slowly, like sometimes we've kind of turned into we're like half and half now. I feel like when I was little, it used to be very show up, we're happy to be here. But I think now, even Graham, she's like, if you ever need, it's kind of weird. She's when I remember even older, she's like, if you need to talk to anyone, and it's weird. She's never said that to me before, but she'll be the first person, and two, also to be able to do that to if you. But she's also the best to hang out with and do stuff with.
She is. She's a gem. Um, we'll end with that. Let's end with Graham. But I just want to say, I'm so proud of you. You are the ultimate solstigator. And I hope one day you get to do a retreat. And like, I'm just so proud of who you're becoming and the work you do and the joy in your face. Like, I see it. And we miss you. We can't wait to see you and celebrate your graduation and celebrate you going into Columbia. And thank you for being a leader for youth solstigators and youth humans. And I love you so much.
Love you.
Thanks so much for coming on to Journey to June. Check out our episodes if you are resonating with anybody, like any of what Grace says. I'll put some links about what she's doing in our notes, but also like if you have a child or someone going through struggle, like reach out to me or somebody that allows them to give space to feel safe to start to explore what they're thinking and the things they love. So thanks for coming on to June to June. Thank you so much.